Hello everyone, welcome back to the Putra tale. And today, I will be bringing you a horror story, titled This House Watched Me Sleep, a disturbing true story. But before we get into the story, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and like this video, so that I am motivated to upload horror stories every day. And this story, I was 9 years old when I first saw the shadow. We lived in an old 2-story house on the outskirts of Elkhart, Indiana. The kind of house with thin walls, creaky floors, and windows that screamed when the wind blew. My parents called it charming. I called it something else, wrong. I didn't say anything at first. What kid wants to admit they're scared of their own bedroom? There's something deeply unsettling about a quiet house at night. The kind of silence that doesn't comfort, but warns. A silence that presses against your skin and makes you listen harder than you want to. For Ellie, that silence had become a nightly ritual. She'd lay in her childhood bed, barely breathing, heart ticking in her ears, waiting to hear the sound. Click. It always started the same way. Her parents would kiss her goodnight, turn off the light, and gently close the door with the usual bedtime warnings about school tomorrow and no sneaking snacks. She'd pretend to drift off while the hallway light faded to black under her door. Then silence. But she knew what came next. Click. It was faint, barely audible over the old creaks and moans of the 1960s house, but it was always there. The soft, deliberate sound of her closet door latch shifting. Not a bang. Not a slam. Just a click. Like someone trying to open it as quietly as possible. At first, she convinced herself it was nothing. Maybe the wood was settling. Maybe the hinges were loose. But it only ever happened after the lights went out. The first few nights, she didn't open her eyes. She didn't want to. She would curl under the covers, grip her blanket tight, and squeeze her eyes shut until sleep, or something like it, took her. But denial has a short shelf life when something inside you knows it isn't just your imagination. The room never felt safe at night. During the day, it was just a typical kid's bedroom, stuffed animals, crayon drawings, a bright pink lamp. But at night, the shadows grew teeth. Corners stretched longer. Walls leaned inward. The air turned heavy, as if something was watching, waiting. It had been nearly a week of this same pattern. The lights go out, the silence swells, and then, click. That night, something changed. She was lying on her side, facing the window, when she felt the air shift. It was cold, not like winter cold, but something deeper. A stillness that settled into her bones. Her fingers instinctively tightened around the blanket, pulling it to her chin. Then came the click. But this time, it wasn't just one. Click. Pause. Click. Longer. Slower. As if the door was being opened inch by inch, deliberately, by something that wanted her to hear. Her breath hitched. She didn't move. The window across from her offered no reflection, just the void of night. The moonlight was weak, barely enough to see outlines, but something caught her eye. A movement. Not fast. Not sharp. Just a slow, creeping shift in the shadows near the closet. She turned her eyes toward it, cautiously, as if too much motion might trigger something. And there it was. The closet door was half open. And inside that crack, just barely visible in the sickly moonlight, stood a shape. It wasn't moving. It wasn't doing anything. It just stood there. Tall. Unnaturally tall. Too tall for that small space. And black. Not shadow black. Not night black. It was the kind of black that looked like it was eating the light around it. A figure that had no edges, no eyes, no features. Just darkness shaped like a man, but not human. Her body went numb. Every instinct told her to run. Scream. Do something. But she couldn't. She couldn't even blink. Her eyes were burning from staring, but she didn't dare shut them, not with that thing in the room. And then it leaned forward. Not much. Just enough for its head to tilt, as if it was acknowledging her, watching her, studying her. Ellie's chest felt like it was caving in. A pressure sat on her ribs, like hands pressing her down. Her heartbeat was loud, too loud. The silence around her seemed to amplify it. She wondered if the thing could hear it too. Then the light in the hallway flickered. Just once. Just a brief surge. And in that instant of dim orange glow slipping under her bedroom door, the shadow was gone. The closet door remained open. She didn't sleep the rest of the night. She lay frozen, eyes locked on the empty doorway, waiting for it to come back. She counted the minutes, the hours, until the first trace of sunlight spilled into her room. When she finally worked up the courage to get out of bed, her legs were stiff and trembling. The closet was empty. No signs of forced entry. No footprints. No proof that anything had been there. Her parents dismissed her terror as a nightmare. "You probably sleepwalked," her mom said, brushing her hair back gently. "You were always a deep sleeper." Her dad laughed it off, blamed a loose door hinge. But she knew. Something had come out of that closet. And it wasn't a dream. After that night with the closet, nothing felt the same. Ellie stopped sleeping with the door closed. She left the hallway light on. She shoved towels under the closet crack and kept her stuffed animals facing the dark corner, like they might guard her if it came back. But the fear didn't go away. It just changed shape. For a few nights, everything stayed quiet. The closet door didn't open. The air didn't feel heavy. The house even seemed softer somehow, like it was pretending to be normal again. But Ellie had grown smart. She knew the worst things didn't happen when you were alert. They waited for you to let your guard down. And she did. Slowly. 2 weeks after the shadow appeared, the house claimed the night again. It started with a dream, or at least she thought it was a dream. She was lying in her bed, as always, the hallway light casting a strip of yellow across her floor. But in the dream, the light flickered. Not like a bulb dying, but like something moving past it. Something tall enough to block it completely. Then, in the dream, she blinked, and the light was gone. Total black. Not a dim black. Crushing. Suffocating. And in that void, something was in the room with her. She didn't see it. But she heard it. Breathing. Not from across the room. Not from the closet. From right beside her bed. Just inches from her head. Slow. Wet. Labored. It didn't sound like her dad's snoring. It didn't sound human at all. It rasped, as if every breath was being pushed through lungs that didn't want to work anymore. Like something trying to stay quiet, but not quite succeeding. She tried to scream. She wanted to scream, but her mouth wouldn't open. Her body was frozen. Every part of her felt like it was wrapped in invisible wire, tight, tense, immobile. Her arms were numb. Her chest barely rose. She could feel her heartbeat hammering through her throat, desperate for release. Then it exhaled. Right next to her ear. Long, slow. Cold. She didn't feel breath, she felt presence. Like something was inside her skin, hovering just beneath the surface. It didn't move away. It lingered, savoring the moment. She could almost feel its smile. The room was dead silent, except for that breathing. And suddenly, she was awake. But not in bed. She was on the floor, halfway across the room. Her bedsheets tangled around her like seaweed. Her throat burned. Her heart was pounding so hard it made her ears ring. The closet door was still shut. But the window was open. That window had been locked for weeks. She never touched it. And yet now, the pale curtains were billowing like breath, and the night air that poured in was frigid, too cold for September. Far too cold. The neighborhood was still. No cars. No wind. Just the soft rustle of those curtains swaying like something had just left or entered. Ellie didn't cry. She wanted to, but she couldn't. It was like fear had stolen every emotion except one: survival. She stood slowly, every joint trembling, every muscle sore. She didn't even look at the bed. She didn't care if something was hiding beneath it. She didn't care if the closet exploded open behind her. She only wanted out. That night, she dragged her pillow and blanket into the hallway and curled up outside her bedroom door, under the glow of the hallway light. She didn't sleep. She stared at the wall, eyes burning, until the sun came up and flooded the house in safety again. Her parents were furious the next morning. They accused her of being dramatic. They said she was too old for tantrums, too old to be scared of nightmares. Her mom even threatened to take her to a child psychologist. But Ellie didn't care. She wouldn't sleep in that room again. From then on, her nights were spent in the hallway. Sometimes she slept upright against the wall. Sometimes flat on her side, cold and sore. But it felt safer. The light stayed on. The door stayed closed. And most importantly, she could see. Inside the room, there were too many places for something to hide. Too many shadows. Too much stillness. But in the hallway, she could watch. Listen. Prepare. That didn't stop it. The next few nights, the house started waking up again. The soft creaks returned. The strange hum of pressure in the walls. And always, that subtle sense that something was watching her from the other side of the door. Like it knew she was just outside. Like it was waiting for her to come back in. But she didn't. She never did. Ellie started counting how many nights she could go without setting foot inside that room. 5, 10, 14. She kept her clothes in the hallway closet, stopped brushing her hair at the bedroom mirror. She refused to be alone in that space, not even for a second. By the time her brother left for college, the house felt emptier than ever. It wasn't just quieter, it was hollow, like something inside it had finally exhaled. The last thread of safety had gone with him. He had always been the buffer between her and the silence. The late-night music through the wall. The thumps of him walking past her door. With him gone, the air settled differently. More still. More aware of her. Ellie tried to pretend it didn't matter. She kept herself busy during the day, stayed out in the yard, walked in circles around the block, stared at the TV without watching anything. But that constant tension never left her. The kind of tension that makes your skin feel too tight for your body. Like something's creeping up behind you, but never quite touches. One rainy afternoon, she found herself in the basement. She didn't even really know why. Maybe it was boredom. Maybe she was looking for distraction. Maybe she was tired of being scared and needed proof that the rest of the house was just as mundane as her parents insisted. The basement had always been gross, but harmless. Unfinished cement floor, rust-stained pipes, peeling walls, that usual faint smell of mildew and forgotten things. The light bulb overhead flickered like it always did. She didn't care. She was used to it. She wandered past old boxes of Christmas decorations and crates of her dad's tools. Her breath left little puffs in the cold air as she crouched beside an old wooden shelf near the furnace, searching for some of her old toys. Something familiar. Something safe. That's when she saw it. A box. Shoved far behind the furnace. Half buried beneath moldy rags and layers of thick dust. She hesitated, but something pulled her toward it. Not curiosity. Not excitement. Something colder. Heavier. Like the weight of an answer waiting to be uncovered. She dragged the box out. It groaned against the concrete like it didn't want to move. Her fingers trembled as she peeled back the lid. Inside, photographs. Dozens of them. All black and white. All old. Some curling at the edges. They weren't family photos, at least not anyone she recognized. But the thing that chilled her wasn't the age of them. It was what was done to them. Every single face had been scratched out. Some with excess. Some with deep gouges. Some completely removed, as if whatever was in those pictures had been erased on purpose. Her hands began to shake. But that wasn't the worst part. In the corner of each photo, it was there. That shape. Faint. Sometimes behind a tree. Sometimes in a window. Sometimes standing in a crowd of people who didn't seem to notice it. The same tall, dark figure she'd seen in her closet. Always watching. Ellie's breath hitched. She slammed the lid shut so hard the box jumped, dust exploding into the air like smoke. She backed away from it, stumbling, heart racing. The sound of rain thudded harder above her, like the house itself had noticed what she found. She didn't look back. She ran upstairs, taking 2 steps at a time, legs barely catching up with her panic. She slammed the basement door and threw the bolt, something she'd never done before. For the rest of the day, she avoided that part of the house entirely. She didn't speak, didn't eat, didn't even respond when her mom called her for dinner. That night, she didn't sleep in the hallway. She was too scared to even move. She curled into her blanket on the living room couch, staring at the ceiling, every light in the room turned on. She didn't close her eyes. She didn't dare. But sometime past midnight, her vision blurred. Her body gave in. The storm outside had eased into a soft drizzle, and the house settled into that dangerous silence again. She didn't remember falling asleep, but she remembered waking up. Her eyes snapped open, and instantly, she knew something was wrong. She wasn't on the couch anymore. She was in her bed. Her bedroom. The lights were off. The hallway door was shut. Her body went cold all over. She tried to sit up, but it felt like the air had thickened, pressing her down. Her muscles didn't respond, not out of paralysis, but pure, overwhelming fear. And then she saw it, at the foot of her bed. It wasn't in the closet this time. It wasn't behind the door. It was closer. Standing tall, unmoving, directly in front of her. The same featureless shape. Blacker than black. A void with arms and legs. Taller than any person should be. No eyes, no mouth, but somehow, it was looking at her. The darkness around it pulsed like heat. Her skin tingled. Her throat closed. She didn't blink. She didn't breathe. And then, it smiled. She didn't see it. There was no mouth. But she felt it. Deep in her gut. A wave of sickening joy that wasn't hers. It flooded her body like venom. A cold, triumphant kind of glee. Like something that had waited years was finally home. Her body snapped out of its trance. She screamed, kicking free of the sheets, crawling backward until her shoulders slammed into the headboard. She reached for the lamp. Light. Gone, it was gone. She cried until morning. Her parents didn't believe a word. They never did. But Ellie knew the truth now. The shadow wasn't just something she saw. It was something that had always been there. Watching. Waiting. And now, it had stepped closer. We moved out 2 months later after I begged my parents and refused to sleep indoors. They never believed me, not until last year, when my dad admitted something that chilled me to the bone. "Your mom used to see it too," he said. "But she never wanted you to know. I've never been back. I won't go near that house. Whatever that shadow was, it still knows my name."